So as you can see, it is cold weather. The camper is still here in Indiana. If you guys are here for the skirting video, I'm gonna add some chapters down below. You guys can skip ahead to how we're doing our skirting. But if you guys are more interested in us, we have a few updates for you. So we've had some stuff come up with our family here recently. We told you guys that my mom was sick over the spring, and we wanted to make sure that we're spending as much time as possible with our family right now. So we decided that we're gonna stay in Indiana for a while, spend more time with our family, and kind of reset our roots while we're here.
We are not done traveling. I don't know if we'll ever be done traveling, but this is definitely going to be a small hiatus in Indiana. Unfortunately, it is January. Why do we always come back in the winter?
I don't know, but somehow we end up getting back here during cold weather, and this year is no exception. So today we are tackling the skirting, and we showed you guys last year how we put our skirting on, and I think we're gonna do it pretty similar. We're gonna make a couple adjustments this year to make sure that we're getting it on right. The dogs are going crazy here. We're gonna empty the tanks today before we get the skirting on. If you guys watched us last year, you'll know how difficult it was to get the tanks emptied. So we're gonna make sure that we get that done today before we get the skirting on. Thanks to all of you who have emailed or reached out to us.
Thank you all. We appreciate you so much, and I know sometimes we don't always get back to messages right away or comments right away. That doesn't mean we don't read them and they don't mean so much to us. So thank you. We're not going anywhere. Things might be a little more sporadic here over the next several months, but we're here, and we're here to share fun stuff to do in Indiana and maybe see some warm weather at some point.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
But there's gonna be more Indiana stuff. Hopefully a lot more property stuff coming up after it warms back up.
Yeah, we've got big goals for the property this year, and I'm excited.
So make sure you guys are following along. If you're new here, make sure you're subscribed. And if you guys have been here a while, hi, thanks so much for following along.
So while Mike is finishing the tanks, because again, we want to get those as empty as possible because it's a bit of a pain with the skirting on, I'm going to, new gloves, I thought these would be a little more flexible. I am going to check all the stabilizers, kind of get the camper as level as possible, as secure as possible, because once we put this skirting on, we're not going to be able to adjust much of anything. So we'll check the tires, make sure the chocks are nice and secure, all that stuff, because again, once this is on there, you can't really get to much under your camper. This again is our second year skirting the camper, so we have a bit of a learning curve. I'm gonna run through the supplies that you need. So first thing obviously is foam board. We have what's about 2.5 inch, 2 3/4 inch foam board. That's what we had, so that's what we're using. I don't think that matters necessarily the thickness. The idea is just to get that barrier from the wind and create an insulated area underneath your camper. So foam board. Second up, we have it's a reflective duct tape. So what we get is cold weather aluminum foil tape. So we found that wider works better. Now this sticks to the camper and the foam board, and it does not pull the decals off. Next up is some white duct tape. So this is the regular just sticky stuff that you use, you know, hold stuff together around the house. And this is to go in between the foam boards. Our foam boards are white, so white duct tape just makes it look cleaner. And then to hold those foam boards in place at the ground, we got just simple garden stakes. Now these are the same ones we used last year. Gonna work just fine. We've seen people use bricks or just gravel or dig a trench. This worked fine for us. So those are like the necessary things. Another thing is a cleaning rag just to clean off the surface of your camper. If there's a bunch of dirt, that tape's not gonna stick. Optional stuff that we found kind of helped is cardboard. And we lined the bottom of the camper with cardboard. Now that's just because to dump our tanks, we have to crawl underneath the camper. Another thing is these steps. So our steps going up into the camper, we figured out last year it was easier for us to fold those up in place and put some temporary steps on the outside. I think that's pretty much all the supplies we need to get going. So we are going to go get our foam board. Hopefully it works. Hopefully the camper's parked near enough the same spot as last year, because we did all the cutting and the measuring and everything last year. So our hope in a perfect world is that we just pull out the old stuff, line it all back up, and it's good to go. Our hope. Hopefully it works that way.
Well, I bought this truck this spring, and we told you guys that we kind of bought it for the property. We got e-bikes this fall, and we were trying to figure out the best way to move them, and so we reached out to our friends at E-Trailer, and they sent us this bike rack. We're going to be talking more about this bike rack down the road, but we've been really happy with it so far. It's similar to the one that we had, but it carries a lot more weight. If you guys are curious seeing this, that's why we have it, so we're going to be talking about that later.
So you've gathered all the supplies that you need. You've got your foam board, you've got your tape and your stakes. First step would be to clean off the camper. So we just did a quick wipe down with a rag. Some people use rubbing alcohol to make sure it's nice and clean and dry. Just some water and some soap is all we did, just to make sure you've got a clean surface where you're gonna attach that tape to the foam board to the camper. So we've done that. I'm going to unload our foam board here and figure out which numbers go where, and then we'll start actually setting it up and attaching it to the camper. So you've cleaned off your camper. For y'all, if you're just doing this for the first time, your next step is going to be probably the hardest part. It's going to be measuring and cutting. We are fortunate enough that we have this from last year. Not only did we have the foam already because my parents had it left over from insulation, but they had the foresight to be like, guys, I know you don't want a winter again, but why don't you keep it in case you need to? So we stored all this in my parents' barn last year and we numbered it. So much easier than having to go through and cut it again. So that's all I'm doing right now is lining up those numbers. But so your first time, that's gonna be your hardest part, measuring and cutting all of this to go around. Mike is taking off the spare tire. We found that the more smooth surfaces you have, the easier it's going to be. So just having the tire off of this back part, and I think we're gonna take off the bike receiver hitch too. We did last year as well. That gives us a smooth surface to put those foam boards against instead of doing a bunch of different cuts to work around them. You're not gonna need your spare tire. You're not rolling the camper anywhere. Another thing is I mentioned the steps. Those are gonna get folded up, and again, we'll have a flat surface there to be able to put the foam board against. So as you're cutting your pieces of foam board to match your camper, a few pieces of advice that we learned last year. I was trying to figure out what to do here with our pass-throughs because you want to be able to get to them. So this is what we ended up doing, is just cutting around the pass-through. So we might have to recut some of these exact measurements because we're not in the exact same spot and the ground's not exactly as level as it was, or you know what I mean. So last year you can see this little hole, that elbow fits exactly in it, and I can already tell, just kind of propping this up, I don't know if I can do it one-handed, I can already tell where that's at. We're probably gonna have to cut that hole a little bit bigger or something. So we might have to do some small adjustments, but as you're doing your cuts, those are small pieces of advice. Just cut around your pass-through, get smooth surfaces, and then depending on how your black tank drain works, maybe leave an opening for that. Mike is just gonna cut a little piece of foam here to kind of shove down in that corner. We could cover it with tape, but it wouldn't really be insulated. Here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. That looks better.
Doesn't that look better?
Yeah.
losing daylight fast. Hey, you wanna know what I just realized we might need? A way to get into our house. So,
We just haven't grabbed them yet.
we had to roll our steps up here to get the skirting around it. So we got to go in and get some stairs that her parents happen to have that actually worked out perfectly last year.
Like surprisingly perfectly.
Surprisingly perfectly. So before it gets dark, we need to get that. I think we're probably going to call it for the night because we are losing our light. I think we'll grab the stairs, and I think I'll finish up the rest of the duct tape tomorrow, try to make sure everything is sealed off. You good?
Huh?
You good?
Yeah, I'm just like small patch in here.
All right.
You ready? You want me to come help you get those steps?
Yeah, let's get those steps before it gets dark.